had the opportunity to travel to China about a month and a half ago. During my time there, I met with some of the organizations that we work with to meet students that enroll at DOC. And I'm looking forward to sharing some of my trip today, some of the things that I experienced there. And I'm delighted that a few of our students from China have agreed to assist me in this process. What we plan to do is have some students sharing about some different themes, and then I will share how I experienced some of those things during my time in China. So this is just sort of a brief overview of all of the travel that I did while I was there. And we're going to start with Rachel and Rebecca sharing on food, which is one of my favorite experiences of the trip. So welcome them forward at this time.
I'm a senior too. So we're talking about food today. Since there's a lot to talk about and we have limited time, we chose the most important thing of the day, which is breakfast, to do a comparison. Typical American breakfast would be cereal, and we have similar one, which is wonton soup, and it's different from the Americanized wonton soup. And we have tofu or tofu lao, which is bean curd jelly, and it's made out of tofu. While wonton soup is usually eaten by southern part of China, tofu lao is usually eaten by northern part of China. And it has, it's not really a soup, but it has a soup consistency. And a typical American hot meal would be oatmeal. In China, we have congee in comparison, and you can basically add anything to it. It can be made out of rice, cornmeal, or millet, or a mix of different beans. You can add veggies or meat, and you can keep it plain. People also grab donuts on their way to school, and we could grab youtiao on our way to school too. They are made in similar process, but they have different shapes. A typical American drink would be milk, and in China we drink soybean milk for breakfast. It's really different than soy milk that we can buy in America in the supermarket here, but it's also a very nutritious breakfast food. It's very high in protein. Pancake could be compared to dianbu, which could be tracked from 5,000 years ago and is documented on many historical files from multiple dynasties, which I think is also the beauty of Chinese food. They were used to be cooked on a stone stove that has fire underneath, and people always put green onions, meat, and eggs as a filling with special sauces. The cake itself is really thin. And there are many types of cooking of eggs. The typical eggs are scrambled egg and omelet in America, and we have many different kinds of eggs, like tomato and eggs, and it is usually the first dish. International students, Chinese students learn to cook, and whenever we crave for American food, traditional Chinese food, we will cook a salmon plate. And we also have steamed eggs, tea eggs, which are boiled eggs, and tea with spices instead of water. And Mr. Hackman, do you want to talk about that?
Yes. Thank you, ladies. My experience with the food in China was that it was incredible. When I was preparing to leave for the trip, I was consistently told by colleagues and students here and other friends that I had visited China before as to how much they love the food. I wasn't really sure how I would feel about it though, as I'm not very much a fan at all of the Americanized Chinese food that we have here. When I first arrived to Chengdu, I was incredibly pleased with the food, and actually the food in Chengdu was without a doubt my favorite food that I experienced on the trip. Chengdu is a city in Sichuan province, which is famous for having very spicy foods, which I am very fond of. Here you can see how pleased I am to be surrounded by thousands of peppers. I always enjoy seeking different types of spicy food, whether it's Mexican food, Thai food, or buffalo types of heat. My favorite dish that I had multiple times during my stay in China was called dan dan noodles. They're delicious noodles flavored with spicy peanut sauce. And you can see a rendition of that on the right there. And while they are famous in the Chengdu area, we were able to order them in other parts of China as well. This is actually in Shanghai, these pictures here. That said, I'd equate having them elsewhere with trying to order a cheesesteak in California. While you can appreciate the effort, it just is not possible to top the original. In addition to my love of dan dan noodles that was developed in Chengdu, I also came to appreciate having a Chinese-style breakfast while staying there. For the most part, each morning, I'd be given the opportunity to have a Western-style breakfast like eggs, pancakes, those types of things that we are familiar with here. While there were many options of breakfast foods in China, I developed a habit of starting each morning with some type of noodle dish, which was often flavored with vegetables, so that would be the one on the far left there. The cooks in Chengdu were all very pleased every time that I said that I wanted to have the noodles very spicy. At first, they would look very, very concerned for me and try to talk me out of ordering them spicy. They were concerned that it would be way too hot for me to handle because of being a foreigner. But that concern quickly turned to some type of camaraderie and bond that we developed when I came back for seconds or thirds of that item, which I could just take a whole entire chapter to do on breakfast noodles, I think, if I had the time. Chengdu is also famous for well, actually before I go to that, I have a couple of other food slides. So this is from Qingdao, which is very famous for seafood. It's a coastal city, so we had some amazing seafood there. Chengdu is also famous for the panda sanctuary, which I had the opportunity to visit. Our tour guide there told us that the panda is China's national treasure, and that the panda knows it, alluding to the fact that the pandas in the sanctuary live somewhat of a pampered life. If they start to chew some bamboo and decide that it's not up to their standards, they just toss it aside and grab some more, and we saw this several times. Big stalk of bamboo, bite, nope, go on to the next one. They would call that typical spoiled panda behavior. The goal of the sanctuary is to help rebuild the panda population. They eventually hope to transition pandas to a 50-50 environment, where it's half wild and half controlled environment, with the goal, if they do well there, to fully reintroduce them to the wild. So I have some baby pandas here. They are in their crib there, and they're also hanging out on some blankets there on the right. They only keep the pandas together in the same area until they're about 2 years old or so. Beyond that, they'll start to kind of battle each other in a helpful way. So they do hang out when they are babies. Here's some of the larger pandas. The one on the left there is chomping on some bamboo, as you can see. Probably a particularly delicious piece, I'm sure. So in addition to seeing the beauty of the panda sanctuary in China, I had the opportunity to see some other amazing sites on the trip as well. And I think Shirley and Swan will share next on some sites and possibly on some living arrangements as well. So I'm going to have them come forward at this time.
Hi everyone, I'm Swan Yang and I'm a junior. So I want to talk about the homes both in US and China. So before I was in China, I lived in a 3-people home, which just consists of my parents and me. So I'm the only child at home. So before I came to America, most of the time I just spent alone, like by myself at home. But after I came here, get the opportunity to live with a very big family, which is a very kind and old couple. And I also live with another 3 international students from DOC. So they have 6 children and 12 grandchildren, which is kind of huge to me because before in China I just lived with my parents, so I was kind of overwhelmed. First time I get into their house, but after that I feel like it's a really different experience to me, and I feel really happy about it because of the age I call my host parents. I just call them grandma and grandpa because they are as old as my real grandparents in China. So I feel they are really kind to me. And also, in terms of transportation, before in China, I went to school every day on foot because I was in a boarding school, and there's a little bit of distance I can travel every day, so I just walk to school. But here, I live in Hatfield, which is not really far, but our grandma will get up every morning really early, like around 6:30 to drive us to school. So I feel I was really took care of by them. And during the time I live here, I moved into their house in January, so it's like actually I moved there in this summer, so it's only like 4 or 3 months. But I feel welcome and took care of. And also I want to talk about every international students live with a host family, and the host family might be different. Some of them might be kind and generous, and some of them might be strict and intense. But I want just to say that no matter where you are, you will always feel that there's a door open to you at the end of the day, and that is home. And I feel really gracious about my host family, even though I don't have any pictures today with me. And I just want to be thankful to them and thankful to my parents in China. Thank you.
I was asking my American friends that, speak of China, where is the first impression that comes to your mind? Some say the Chinese food, some say the tremendous population, and some say the great sky. But today, I want to introduce some different insights of China. I will say every historical remains and the natural beauties in China contains a long history and unique cultures. Some sites still remain until today. This is the Forbidden City, where the empire lived for thousands of years. The Forbidden City during the winter time. And the most popular place, the Great Wall. Hangzhou West Lake presents a natural beauty of the south of China, which is where I come from. There's a tradition in my family that we will take every single guest who comes to visit our home to the West Lake. My dad always jokes about, since we went there so many times, every member in my family can walk around the lake with our eyes closed. And the picture is the south, the ancient traditional house where the common people live. They are less fancy than the Forbidden City, but it reveals a long history and the unique culture of China. And it's especially charming at night. This is the west of China look like, the prairies, and there's where many minority lives, like Native Americans in the United States. Some of them still adhering the traditional nomadic reason of life. The picture is the that we live in were eligible to move with changing seasons. There are 55 ethnic groups where we count the minority nationalities. They account for 6% of the population, and as we see on the picture, they have their unique customs and holiday and language. And by the way, there are thousands of different dialects in China. In some areas, we even could not understand each other's dialect in the neighbor cities. On the other hand, China also possesses modern elements such as Shanghai, the economic center, at night. Beijing, the most popular shopping center in Beijing, and Chongqing. And we can see in the picture is the combination of the ancient architecture which we see on the front with the golden lights, and on the background is the modern buildings. Shenzhen, the largest export and import harbor in China. However, there are so many differences and similarities between China and America. As an international students, we are 9,000 miles away from our home, and sometimes we do miss home. But at our community, with the kindness and the encouragement from all the faculties, we are able to adjust life in the United States. And next, Mr. Hackman is going to share about his insights of China during the summer.
So I thought it was a really nice time. Shirley talked about seeing both the traditional architecture and the modern architecture as well. I'm going to touch on 3 different sites that I saw, or experiences that I had. One would have been the river cruise in Shanghai. One was my time in Wuzhen, which I think is the West Lake, or perhaps they're close to one another, because it looked like some of the same pictures that she was showing there. And also my time in Beijing, which would include the Great Wall and Forbidden City, which Shirley touched on as well. So you can see the traditional architecture here. This home that we visited in the center, we were told, is about 500 years old. And then on the far right, you can see the traditional architecture from that time period. And then in the back, in the distant sky there, you can see the top of the Shanghai Tower, which is known as the Dragon Building. It's the second tallest building in the world at 128 stories. We had a chance to go up to the observation deck in the building right next to that, which is not quite as tall, but is very tall also. So this is a picture from that observation deck. I was absolutely stunned by how massive of a city Shanghai is. We would land in the airport and then have an hour and a half drive, land in Shanghai and have an hour and a half drive to where we were going to next, because the city is just so big. By population, I understand it to be a city of roughly 24 million, which is almost 3 times the population of New York City, which is, of course, probably the largest city that anyone here has ever been to, unless you've traveled outside of the United States, of course. The river cruise in Shanghai offered the opportunity to see both the old city and the new city buildings along the river. The new city was apparently built up within the last 20 years. So our tour guide said if you would have been in this exact spot 20 years ago, you'd have been basically looking at farmland. And the fact that that much has been built up in that time is just, it's mind-boggling when you consider how just elaborate and developed that area is. The lights were amazing. It was fun to take them in from the riverboat. So the Dragon Building is the one in the center there with the blue stripe and the purple top. Not far from Shanghai is a town that it's called Wuzhen, I think maybe also the West Lake, is known as. We were told that it is considered to be the Venice of China. It's a small village-type town with shops and restaurants along the canals. It is absolutely beautiful and was my favorite spot that we visited in China altogether. The old-looking shops along the water gave a unique ambiance and charm, which were beautiful both day and night. So here are a few pictures from Wuzhen. There's a tower during the day, and then the tower there, the same tower at night. And there were lots of boats rolling through these canals. In Beijing, we had the opportunity to spend time visiting both the Forbidden City and the Great Wall. The Forbidden City was fascinating, and any type of summary that I would attempt to give here would not do it justice due to the amount of time that we have. But there are beautiful statues and ceramic art pieces throughout. There's the throne, there's some statues as well. And here are a few of the ceramic pieces that I saw. There are over 300,000 ceramic pieces in the Forbidden City. I did take these pictures and then promptly learned after that you are not to be taking pictures of the ceramic pieces. So I was grateful for the grace of that security guard for letting me keep my phone. But I did make it away with these awesome shots here. After the Forbidden City, we had the opportunity to visit the Great Wall. This is the group that I traveled with. Some other school officials, two of them are from Lancaster Mennonite, and the other would be from a school in Wilmington, Delaware. So I enjoyed traveling with them. The poor little girl on the left there was not having nearly as much fun as we were, but I'm not really sure why, because it was an awesome spot to be at. We got the chance to hike to 6 different towers and take in some awesome views from the towers looking out onto a very blue sky, which I know is not very common. We were told that many, many times how lucky we were to have been in Beijing on a clear blue sky day. So these are just some more shots from the wall. So lastly, I think Peter will talk about some differences in our school systems.
Hi everyone, I'm Peter. So, here I'm going to talk about the difference between schooling systems between the United States and China. You guys cannot imagine how blessed you guys are, so let me explain why. School usually starts at 7:30 and end around 4:30 to 6:30, depends on the schools. And from 9th grade to 12th grade, school usually ends around 9 to 10 p.m. But varies between schools. And another thing I want to talk about is how the classroom works. Because in China, students sit in classrooms to wait for the teachers to come in, but in the States, we walk to teachers' classroom. So I believe it's called mobile learning system. So that's another difference. And the third difference is that the SATs, the China SATs. Those are two biggest tests in China. One is 9th grade and one is 12th grade. So these two tests determines that whether you go to a good high school or you're going to go to technical school to learn a skill and get a job. And then there's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people taking the same test. That's seriously stressful. And then that's why school ends from 6:30 to 9 to 10. Because the schools require mandatory samples to help you guys to achieve your best. And another difference, or similar things, we have pledged allegiance to the flag, I believe we don't do it here. And then we do colors in the morning. For those of you guys who don't know what color is, that is raising the flags and sing the national anthem. And in my knowledge, there's barely any religious-based high school or middle school. There is, but just not in my knowledge. And I'm really glad I'm here because the school ends at 2:30. So in conclusion,
A verse that comes to mind to summarize my trip to China is Romans 15:7, which is, "Therefore welcome one another as Christ has welcomed you for the glory of God." I consistently felt welcomed everywhere I went in China. There was patience extended to me every day. I didn't know the language, and because of that, communication required extra time, at times, whether we were in a restaurant, on a plane, taking a tour, etc. I noticed this all the time and appreciated how gracious everyone was in this way with me. Not once did I ever get the sense that I shouldn't be there visiting if I wasn't prepared to hack it from a language standpoint. I still only know how to say 3 things in Chinese, which are hello, thank you, and I'm full. I certainly made use of the last phrase on multiple occasions. I know that studying in a school can present challenges for you as students when you are asked to work in groups or communicate with classmates that might be studying here from another country. While the extra efforts this might take may provide an additional challenge for you, I hope that you can embrace this challenge as the people of China embraced it with me. I wasn't sure what to expect from traveling to China, but I can assure you that if you were ever given the opportunity to go, that the trip would be an amazing experience for you. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to share. I hope that you enjoyed it.